Hello, friends. It is after midnight, and I felt inspired. So I wanted to make a video about what is my emotion telling me, and I kind of like we could go through different emotions with this. Um, I felt inspired by my own video that I just made about just watching emotions and allowing them to arise and feel them and allowing them to soften and just like kind of witnessing our own thought process, see what beliefs come up when we're in an emotion, and see what it feels like in our bodies, and kind of to just stay seated in the throne of awareness as the emotion does its thing, as our thoughts, our own mind does its thing. We so often go along with the mind, identify with the mind, identify with um, our justifications, our defenses, and we really believe these reasons. And so in that video that I just made, it was more so focusing on the staying still in ourselves while the emotions are doing their thing. But I wanted to make a compliment to that because I wanted to talk about listening to the voice of the emotion. Because when we're sitting there and we're seated on our throne of awareness and we're listening to our thoughts and we're feeling what it feels like in our body, there's information that's being communicated to us about why do I feel this way? Because so often, yes, we're taught to repress. So often we'll like push our emotion away, or we yeah. um so instead of like doing all those things that our culture doesn't teach us the right way to deal with emotions, um we can ask ourselves, instead of getting frustrated with ourselves for feeling an emotion, we can ask ourselves curiously, openly, okay, this anger is here for a reason. Why? Why are you here? What message do you have for me? What do you want to tell me about myself? What information is relatively important? And I say relatively because there's always this I that is seated on the throne of awareness while these emotions are flowing through. But there's also this other me, this other level where I exist as an ego, as a healthy ego. Healthy ego is super important. Um, and yeah, and so this video is more so on the ego level than the absolute level, because absolutely we're practicing just staying in the observer and the witness, but we also at the same time, multi-dimensional beings, at the same time that they're seating on the throne of awareness, they're also identifying as their ego. So for example, anger. Let's talk about anger. And I'm just going to give a couple examples of what anger might be telling us, because it's infinite. You know, it's like a certain feeling that I might call anger has so many different stories. It has so much information to tell each of us contingently with the situation that we're in. And so the message that I really want to convey here is just a reminder that instead of getting frustrated with an emotion or thinking, oh, I'm a limitless, infinite being, like I can feel free and open, and just focusing on simulating positivity and like I create my reality. We also want to say, okay, well, there is something here. Like, what's going on? Like, why am I feeling this way? So with anger, for example, anger is power. Like, and anger is interesting because it kind of, there's like fight or flight. So it kind of might flip back and forth, anxiety, anger, where we feel small and we feel like we're threatened by something, or we feel like, fuck you, like, how dare you disrespect me? You know, there's a kind of flip sides to the same thing. Um, and so for example, a time that we might feel angry, or a time that when I might feel angry and I'm remembering to ask, like, oh, anger, what are you telling me? It might be telling me I had a boundary overstepped. It might be telling me I overstepped my own boundary. And a lot of the times that anger comes up where instead of asserting ourselves, we were small and we doubted ourselves. Ooh, my screen just went black. And it came back. Or a time, yeah, it's a time when we didn't assert ourselves when we needed to in order to healthfully honor our human ego. Anger might come up after a time that we did not assert ourselves, and it's this extra power. It's like this voice that was quiet in me when I was around you, and you seemed bigger than me, and like your will was stronger than my will, and I was out of touch with my own will for a minute there, or I just didn't honor it, and instead I like gave you what you wanted in some way, or I overstepped my own boundary. So then like a minute later, or a day later, or years later, if I have hella repressed that anger, I'll get angry. I'll feel my own power. And it gets louder. It got louder because I didn't listen to my own inner authority and my own assertiveness, my Martian energy when it first came up. So it's like, oh, you didn't hear me. Like, here I am now. Okay, so this is like just one example of when we listen to what our emotions are telling us, there could be useful information there. Boundaries is one example of what anger might be telling us. And so to use this self-questioning, okay, what is this emotion telling me, in tandem with just allowing, watching, because even, even as I'm becoming aware, like, oh, I overstepped my own boundaries, and I might even get angry at that or frustrated at that, or like, why can't I ever just uphold my own boundaries? Something like this, and it spirals or more emotions come up with it, that's totally fine. Because I'm sitting in my throne of awareness. And so I'm getting the message. I'm getting the information. When I'm in awareness, it is, it's stationary, but it's not static. It's not stagnating. It's not tolerating, So there's discernment that comes. When we're sitting in awareness and we're watching our emotions, there will also be information to inform us on the ego level. It's not just like, oh, here's anger, there it goes, here it goes, because then we won't catch on to patterns. And when we're sitting and we're practicing mindfulness like all the time, you're going to start noticing patterns, and that's good. A pattern karma, it'll repeat itself until we finally get the memo and we finally understand, like I keep feeling angry in this situation because I keep overstepping my boundaries, and I finally got the memo. So there's information that this emotion is telling me. Okay, hope that made sense. Much love.